Hello, welcome. A special video for you today. This is my very first questions and answer video. I've got your questions, those of you that commented on the YouTube post or the Instagram stories. I'm going to try and do one cut. So this probably better to listen to rather than watch because I won't have visuals. It'll just be like a rolling footage as I get through as many questions as possible. I've got 2 pages of questions. So let's jump straight in no particular order. First question, what is your go-to lens for film? And what is your go-to lens for digital? This is obviously a difficult question because it depends on what I'm photographing. Let's just presume I'm shooting portraits. My go-to focal length is 50mm. For film, I tend to use sharper lenses. So at the moment, I'm using the Typoc Eureka 50mm f2. If I'm shooting digital, I'll probably want something a bit softer. Maybe the Light Lens Lab 50 1.2 1966. There's so many amazing lenses. Those are just ones I'm using currently. Next question, how do I find models? Now, this is actually the most asked question by miles, and the answer is, I'll put a link below to my free ebook. I have written 2 ebooks now on model photography. The first one was a free ebook. The second one was kind of everything I've learned over the last 10 years or so. I'll put links below to all of them. I explain everything about how to find models from start to finish, from every little type of detail you need to know regarding what sort of model you want for your photo shoot. So links below. What is the sharpest lens for Leica M-mount? For me, I'd say of all the lenses I've tested, Apo lenses are the sharpest. So they could be Voigtlander Apo lenses or Leica Apo lenses. You've got your Voigtlander 35, 50 and 90 Apo. And you've got your Leica 35, 50, 70 Apo. Oh, and 90 Apo. If I've forgotten any, comment below. So any Apo lens, you're going to get super sharp results. I've not noticed a huge difference between Leica and Voigtlander. What is the best lens I've ever used and favorite one lens? You guys, this is the first time I've not prepared these, so this is first thinking. Best lens I've ever used. There's so many amazing lenses. Let's say the most unique lens I've ever used, that is a Kodak Aero Ektar 178, I think it is, 175 f 2.5. And that's a large format lens, and it's a special lens, and it's not something I've yet to replicate with 35mm. Check my videos, I have done stuff for all these things before. Next question. 1 camera and 2 lens. So reread it. If you have to have 1 camera and 2 lenses for visiting a new city, what would you take? If I'm taking, it depends if it's film or digital. If it's digital, let's give you a better answer. If it's digital and I'm taking 1 lens, I'll take a 35mm lens because I find that's the best like happy medium. And at the moment it'd be a Leica Summicron 35 f2 version 3. If I'm taking 2 lenses, I'll take the 28 2.8 version Type 2 Scope R as my 28, and I'd take the Typoc as my 50 f2 as my 50. And then I'd use those in either a M262 if I'm shooting street for digital, and MA if I'm shooting film. The reason I say 262 and not M10 is the 262 is lighter and the battery lasts way longer. What is my preferred 1 camera, 1 lens for portraiture? For portraits, there's so many good lenses for these things. Camera for portraits will be if we're talking about Leica, because most of you probably like Leica, it'll be my Leica SL. With my favorite lens would be probably a fast 50, let's say. It depends on the skin type of the models. It depends on so many things. Any vintage 50 with lots of character. Let's say nickel 50 SC 1.4, just to give a bit of variety. And if I was using the Hasselblad, I'd use a Hasselblad H3 D39 with a 100mm 2.2 8C lens. What camera bag do you use every day? I'll put a link below to my top 10 video and top 10 blog post. In that video and blog post, I explain that my everyday camera bags are White & Craft, probably around here somewhere. I use a Wotancraft rucksack or backpack, and I use a Wotancraft kind of satchel bag across me, and then that fits into the rucksack when I'm flying. So it's a really good setup. Why is the Leica CL more expensive than the Leica SL? The Leica CL is discontinued. SL models are still in production. Therefore, the CL will now go up in value because there's nothing else like it. I still own my Leica CL and I also own my SL, but that's why CL prices are holding so well, because there isn't anything else on the kind of Leica ecosystem anymore. What is the most underrated Leica M-mount lens? For me, it would be the 7 Artisans 50mm f1.1 because they're cheap and they take amazing pictures, and I just don't know why they're not more popular. It seems like a bit of a weird one for me, why they're not more popular. When am I next visiting the US, especially Chicago? I plan to be back in the US, hopefully kind of April, May time, once the weather is kind of nice over in the US. And my plan is to go to New York first. Now, I've got a workshop survey. To answer the question fully, I go to New York to teach model photography or teach Leica users how to use their camera. Most of the people that have filled in my survey of where they're based in the US are in New York, so that's why I'm going to New York first. When am I going to Chicago? If you complete the survey, I'll put a link below for those wanting me to visit you for workshops. The more people that complete the survey by city, I'll visit those cities faster because I need to go to places where people need me, basically. So Chicago, I'm not exactly sure when, but definitely New York in the spring is the plan. What is my least favorite lens? This is difficult because I'm kind of quite upbeat if you see my videos, and I probably rave about every lens that I talk about. My least favorite lens would be a lens that's too big to carry, too heavy to carry, and so therefore, even if optically it's quite nice, if it doesn't do anything special, I'd probably never use it. You're going to hate me, some of you that own this lens, but the lens that comes to mind would probably be the Leica 24 to 90 zoom lens. I know it's great, but unless you're a studio photographer, it's too much for me to carry, and it doesn't have enough character compared to my style of photography where I like these kind of less perfect, characterful lenses. So yes, I guess that's my answer. Is film better than digital? Yes and no. Yes, I prefer the results of film to digital when I get it right. But equally, it's nice to have digital as a backup because sometimes I might screw up my film or I see too many imperfections in the film, say on the model's skin, compared to shooting with a softer lens on digital. Or the problem with film is sometimes if your film's in your camera and you go through a CT scanner, say going to the US, you're going to cook your film and you'll get lots of banding through all your negatives, which happened to me the last time I went to the US because I left the film in the cameras because it's a long story, but basically I couldn't take it out, so it got cooked. What was the first film camera you ever had and how do you develop your film? My first film camera I ever had was one passed down from my grandfather, and it was a Yashica, I think it was a Yashica MG1, and then my first own film camera that I bought was an Olympus OM1. And yes, I developed my own black and white film. I think there's another question on this, so I'll go back to developing it on the next question. Why do I take photos if it's not for YouTube or teaching workshops? I take photos for fun, and I like to test for myself equipment, as geeky as that sounds, as an ex-auditor. I enjoy the testing, I enjoy trying to get creative, and I enjoy trying to make better photos than I made previously. So if you see me recently, recording this in December, I've been photographing like watches and things, just messing around in the house, taking photos of like with macro lenses and things, and yeah, enjoying it. Not going to do anything with the photos. Might post a few on various blog posts and things, but just doing it for fun, really. So yeah, I do it for fun, and I enjoy the social aspect of model photography as well. What would you have done if you didn't do photography? I probably would have done health and fitness. I used to be I studied science, then re-studied to be an accountant and worked as an accountant. But if I had to do one kind of passion project similar to photography, my other kind of passion is health and fitness. So yeah, it would be kind of, I'll be doing YouTube on how to have a six pack and stay lean and all these sorts of things. Um, what was your best period for photography, excluding kind of social media likes? Thinking back, my best period for photography was maybe twofold. My first period that I remember having a big jump up in my knowledge was when I went from a kind of point and shoot little camera to a bridge camera, which now are called kind of an APS-C or no, micro four thirds mirrorless camera. It was one of the very first mirrorless cameras, a Lumix G1. And then when I got a step up in kind of knowledge and experience and better pictures is when I started using manual focus lenses. So yes, cameras all come with kit lenses. If you buy like mirrorless cameras, autofocus, often they have no aperture controls. You don't learn anything with lenses like that. Buy yourself a manual focus lens, put it on whatever camera you've got, and then start to learn aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. That was the first big jump up. The second big jump up was when I switched from my Nikon D800 to the Leica M9. I remember I was working in Ukraine at the time for part of my finance job, and I had the camera with me, and those are some of my favourite pictures at the time, shooting black and white, straight out of camera with the girls in Ukraine, just people that I managed to persuade to stand in front of the camera. And yeah, it was such a huge jump up going from the high resolution Nikon D800 to the even older Leica M9. And yeah, such a difference. And I never looked back since then. I've been Leica all the way. What was my first real camera, and what do you suggest is what do you suggest is the best camera for beginners? So I just mentioned my first real camera was a Lumix G1, which is micro four thirds. Cheap camera, put a manual lens on it. It's great. All excuse me, all the cameras now are pretty much fine for beginners. Just pick any beginner kind of mirrorless camera, buy yourself like a Fast 50 Prime, and try to get some vintage glass on eBay and attach it by an adapter, and then start teaching yourself photography. Which photographers inspired you before and now? When I first got into photography, I taught myself photography through Flickr. So there's a photographer called, what's his name? I think it's like Mike Mojo, something Mojo. It's a Belgian model photographer that photographed kind of semi-nude and stuff similar to what I shoot, black and white on film with like amazing cameras, like lots and lots of different film cameras. He inspired me a lot, and a lot of kind of Ukrainian, Russian photographers also shooting film. They inspired me a lot as well. And then nowadays I don't really look at any photographers for inspiration. I just do whatever's in my head. Sorry for the background noise. I just do whatever's in my head. I don't look in books for inspiration. I don't look in magazines for inspiration. I might pick up ideas for clothes from looking at other model photos posted on Instagram, but I just kind of make it up as I go along. I don't know if that makes me good or bad. 3 things I love, just in general. So sunshine, absolutely number 1. As soon as it's sunny, I'm like, oh, I'm so happy. Like the whole day's already like amazing as soon as it's sunny. I'm like, oh, shall I make a video? Shall I go out and take photos? Shall I go running? Shall I go cycling? There's so many things you can do when it's kind of dry and sunny outside, and it just makes my day like instantly. Second thing would be healthy food. I really struggle when I can't find healthy food. Like when I was in the US, I just don't know how people survive in the US. Nothing against the US, but both in Vegas and in New York, it's kind of overpriced, bad food, and I really struggled. And exercise. If I'd go like more than maybe a day without exercise, 2 days max, I kind of start to like crawl up the walls and go a bit crazy. I'm weird. And also 3 hates. 3 things you hate. Cold, wet, dark days is one. So like winter in the UK is just absolutely miserable. Rain, if I do that separately, I don't mind it if it's kind of dry and cold because I can still run on stuff and cycle. But if it's rain, I don't really enjoy the rain, and also I can't do lots of stuff I enjoy doing. And I guess the third one would be probably antisocial behaviour. I think as I got older, I've kind of my tolerance for kind of noise and people that are kind of causing trouble is kind of really, really minimal. So whether that's kind of football writing people, whether it's drunken people, whether it's kind of young hooligans causing trouble in the street, I really hate all of it. What are my plans for 2025? Good question. I'd like to do more collaborations. So if you're a YouTuber similar size to me, just get in touch. It would be great to do something. I'd love to do like more adventures. I think I love channels like Grainy Days. I know I met him in Vetsa recently. If you saw that video, awesome guy. I'm jealous of his videos where he goes off exploring with Caleb and finds cool stuff to video and just hangs out with his mates. I'd like to do that more in 2025 for videos, obviously photography related. I'd like to do more darkroom prints if I can find the time. I kind of started doing it this year and then I just ran out of time again. So maybe I'll try a few over Christmas if I get a chance. And then I guess more of the same from 2024. I'll review new things as it becomes released, anything relating to Leica, and then film cameras that I buy or get interested in, model photography stuff, that kind of thing. Comment below if you want anything specific. How do I edit my photos? I shoot raw with the digital cameras and then just apply my MrLeica presets. I'll put a link below. I basically make Lightroom presets for myself, and then over the years people have asked me to make them available for everybody else. So now I list them on the blog so everyone can use the same presets. Where am I spending Christmas? I'm spending Christmas at my brother's house. So I guess a bit about me. I'm the eldest of 4 children. My father passed away this year, so it'll be the rest of us plus mum. My brothers and sisters all got 2 children each, and so I'm kind of like the black sheep with lots of cameras but no kids and no wife. Okay, next page. So for my scrappy bits of paper. What is my favourite modern 50mm lens and my favourite vintage 50mm lens, and how do they differ? Ooh, good question. I guess if I could have anything, I think the new Leica Summilux 50mm 1.4 version 2 is fantastic, although I don't own it. Favourite vintage? There's so many good lenses. I really like the Summilux again. Summilux 50mm 1.4 pre-spherical version 2 is very nice. And then there's something older, maybe again the Nikkor 50 1.4 SC. How do they differ? Vintage lenses have got more character. They tend to be softer with more glow, wide open. Modern lenses tend to be better corrected, sharper in the corners, and a lot more expensive. If you could ask Voigtlander or Light Lens Lab to make one lens, any lens, what would it be? Ooh, good question. Tricky. I wish more companies made lenses and screw mount so I could use more lenses on my Leica 3 cameras. And then to answer the question, it would be a small light 50 with lots of character, maybe a 50 1.4 that's sharp enough wide open. That's not too big. I know I'm asking a lot. So yeah, something like that. I tend to use the smallest lenses the most, as you can see here. So smaller, lighter, the better. If I could only keep one 50mm lens, what would it be? I've got about, I have many lenses. One lens. If you ask me today, it might be the Typok Eureka 50mm f2 because it's light enough to carry around all day. It's sharp enough for digital and for film. It's got a bit of character and it's collapsible. But I'm sure there's better lenses if I gave it more thought. But that's the first one that comes to mind. Ooh, a non-Leica question. If you could have the Nikon F3 or Nikon FM3A, what would you have? Now, if you don't know, I shoot Nikon film cameras as well as all my Leica stuff, and I do own both the F3 and the FM3A. I would go for the Nikon FM3A. That's the one I use the most at the moment. I still need to do a video. Subscribe if you want to see that. FM3A because it's sorry, I should have turned my phone off. FM3A because it syncs at 250th in a second. It's kind of the last Nikon good film camera. So you've got kind of, I think it's 4,000th of a second mechanical shutter speed. And it's smaller than the F3. And yeah, I like it the best. But the S3 is awesome as well. Favorite lens that isn't like M mount, if you could have it on M mount. One lens I really like, I'm not sure if I'd use it on M mount, would be the Nikkor 180 2.8 ED autofocus lens. That lens is really sharp for film. Use it just as manual focus. Really good on film. I use it a lot on my Nikon FE2, Nikon F3, those sorts of cameras. Very, very good lens. Really, really good. Will I ever test lenses from Maya Optics Gorillas? Is that how you say it? Yes, I did write some maybe a couple of years ago and I didn't get any response. If they want to reply, then I can test the lenses, but I can only ask so many times. Do I develop my own film? Yeah, I thought I had that question twice. Yes, I develop my own film. I've always developed my own black and white film since pretty much starting out film, which is maybe more than a decade ago. I just use the Patterson like Jobbo tanks that I use in like the kitchen sink. So you don't need a dark room. And then I used to also develop C41 and I used to develop Kodak movie film, Vision 3 film, cross-processed in C41. So that's a bit more complicated. You've got to kind of soak it in baking soda to take off the rem jet and all those things. If you look at my old Flickr pictures, you will find those. Best first digital M camera. I think in 2024, the M8 is a crop sensor, so maybe not that one for me. The M9 is amazing, but it's a bit slow for kind of real work, if you want to call it that. It's an amazing camera, and it's got, if you get one with a non-corroded sensor, amazing camera. But the most practical camera would be something like a Leica M240, I think. You can get the 240, the 262, which I've got, and the MP240, they're all the same sensor. Don't get the 262 if you want live view, because there's no live view in the 262. If you really, really need to shoot in the dark, spend a bit more money and get the M10, but for most things, I think the M240 is fine for people. If the M12 has a EVF, do you think it will lose the Leica fans? I think it's the same with everything. People kind of learn to love stuff. It's like the base plate change on the Leica M11. When it first happened, people probably complained about it, but now they're probably glad that they can charge the camera via the USB-C. So if they do it, I'm sure people will love it eventually, and it'll help Leica move forward. Although hopefully they'll still keep making some real optical viewfinder camera if they do make a option with EVF. Will I ever make a photo book? Yes, actually, if you're patrons, you'll know that I've been making photo books for the last maybe 3 or 4 years. I've been making them available to Patreon. Some of you bought them over the years. I did like a series. But my kind of printers stopped making the book that I used to do. So I need to find a new printers. And then the plan will be to then try to make them kind of available to everybody, like to the masses. So yes, I'll try and make a photo book. Not sure exactly when. I'm also going to try and make my model photography ebook as a hardback option on Amazon. That's probably going to be at the end of 2025 or sometime in 2025 if the demand is there. Am I still using my TLR Caloflex? No, good question. Because I've got a lot of cameras, I tend to cycle through the different cameras. I do still have the TLR, and it is amazing, and it is smaller than the Hasselblad 6x6. But I haven't used it for a while. I must admit, I should, because it's a fantastic lens, and I really enjoy the camera. but my go-to medium format film camera at the moment is the Hasselblad H2 or the Hasselblad H3D39 with a film backer. I can use the same film back on both cameras. Finally, do I still have a regular day job? If you've watched me for a few years, you might remember the video I quit my career. So basically, as I say, I studied for science. It wasn't very useful. So then I spent 8 years after university restudying to be a chartered accountant. I then worked as an accountant, then I worked as a senior auditor. So that's how I discovered countries like Poland and Ukraine and Hungary, because I used to go there with my job to do kind of the auditing. And that's when I noticed all the girls and like, wow, I need to bring my camera. I quit my day job almost 2 years ago, 2 years in a few weeks. It was on my 44th birthday. My manager said I was about to lead some big project and I was going to have to be away for 6 months or something. And I'm like, I can't do this. I was already close to quitting. And so that made me jump slightly sooner than planned. So now my full-time job is YouTube. I do 2 videos a week and it takes maybe 5 days of each week to make 2 videos. And then I teach on the other days or try to reply to all the YouTube comments or the emails and those sorts of things. And that is the end of the questions. If you're still awake, I hope you found it useful. If you'd like to help me get to 40,000 subscribers, please subscribe and hit the like button. If you enjoyed this type of video and you want me to do more Q&As in 2025, again, hit the like button, comment below. I can basically do whatever you want me to do. So happy to do these sorts of sessions if you find them useful. Now you've got a taster for what it's like. Also, be nice to try to do more Patreon meetups in 2025. So if you think you're a similar kind of person to me in terms of interests and energy levels, join us on Patreon. There's a few of us that already get together and it'd be great to have a few more people join us. Thanks for watching. Thanks, as I say, to my amazing patrons, and hope to see you in the next video. Happy holidays. See you soon.